That person living rent-free in your head, the one you replay conversations with that never happened and check your phone for a notification that never comes? There's a powerful scientific reason for it, and it's not what you think. 99% of people misdiagnose this feeling, trapping themselves in a painful loop. The final part of this video reveals the one question that sets you free: chemical cocktail. Let's start by decoding what's happening inside your own mind on a purely biological level. Because that constant, low-level hum of a person in the back of your thoughts isn't just a feeling, it's a physiological event. Your brain is a brilliant, but sometimes mischievous chemical lab, and when someone captures your attention this intensely, it's because it has mixed a very potent, very specific cocktail of neurochemicals. The first ingredient, and the most powerful one, is dopamine. We often think of dopamine as the pleasure molecule, but that's a slight misinterpretation. It's actually the motivation molecule. It's the chemical of seeking, of wanting, of anticipation. It's not the reward itself, it's the feeling you get when you're pursuing the reward. When there's no communication with this person, the loop is left open. Your brain doesn't have a conclusion, so the dopamine system goes into overdrive. It keeps seeking, anticipating, and wondering. It creates a powerful urge to close the loop, to get that text, to have that conversation. This is why the silence can feel so loud. Your brain is literally wired to crave the resolution that isn't coming, and that craving is fueled by a steady drip of dopamine that keeps the person at the forefront of your mind. It's a biological itch that you can't seem to scratch. The second ingredient in this potent mix is norepinephrine. This is a close cousin to adrenaline. It's the chemical of alertness, focus, and memory. When you have a strong emotional connection, or even just a strong fascination with someone, your norepinephrine levels spike. This is what causes that feeling of your heart beating a little faster when you think of them. It's what makes you notice tiny details, the way they laugh, a specific phrase they used once, the color of their shirt. Your brain essentially puts a spotlight on this person, making every detail about them seem incredibly significant and memorable. This is a survival mechanism at its core. Our brains are designed to pay very close attention to things that are important to us. But when it's focused on a person with whom there's no active communication, it creates a hyper-realistic and detailed mental file that you can't stop opening. You remember everything because your brain has chemically tagged them as high priority. It's a state of heightened arousal and focus, all directed at one individual who isn't even there. Then there's the third and perhaps most complex ingredient, oxytocin. We call this the bonding hormone or the cuddle chemical. It's released during moments of connection, a great conversation, a shared laugh, a moment of vulnerability. But here's the interesting part. Your brain can also release small amounts of oxytocin just by thinking about someone you feel connected to. When you replay a positive memory with them, or even imagine a future positive interaction, you're giving yourself a little dose of this bonding chemical. This creates a feedback loop. You think about them, you get a tiny hit of oxytocin, which feels good and reinforces the bond, which makes you want to think about them more. It's a form of self-soothing that can become incredibly addictive. You're essentially forming and strengthening a bond with a version of this person that exists entirely in your mind. This chemical cocktail, the seeking of dopamine, the focus of norepinephrine, and the bonding of oxytocin, creates an incredibly powerful and persistent mental state. It's not a lack of willpower, it's your own brain chemistry working exactly as it's designed to, but focused on an unresolved and ambiguous target. Understanding this is the first step to reclaiming your mental energy. You're not crazy, you're just human, with a very powerful brain doing its best to solve a puzzle. Storytelling brain. Now that we understand the chemical engine driving this experience, let's look at the software it's running, your narrative-obsessed brain. Our minds are fundamentally storytelling machines. They are hardwired to take disconnected pieces of information and weave them into a coherent narrative. We don't just see events, we see a plot. We don't just meet people, we cast them as characters in our life's movie. And our brains absolutely despise a vacuum. They cannot stand ambiguity or incomplete stories. This is a psychological principle known as the Zeigarnik effect, which states that we remember unfinished or interrupted tasks far better than completed ones. An unresolved romantic interest, a friendship that faded without explanation, a professional connection that never fully materialized. These are all open loops in your mind. because there's no communication, the story has no ending. And your brain, like a frantic author with a deadline, will work tirelessly to write one for you. It will fill in the blanks. This is where the real trouble begins, because the story your brain writes is almost never based in reality. It's a fantasy, a projection. When you lack real-time data about a person, their current feelings, their daily struggles, their flaws, your mind doesn't just leave that space empty. Instead, it fills it with an idealized version of them. It takes the best parts you remember, the positive moments you shared, the potential you saw, and it builds a character out of them. This mental avatar of the person doesn't have bad days. They don't have annoying habits. They exist in your mind as a perfect, curated version of themselves, a character designed to fit perfectly into the role you need them to play in your inner world. You're not just thinking about the person, you're co-creating a narrative with a fictionalized version of them. You replay past conversations and edit the dialogue to be more perfect. You script future conversations that may never happen, imagining the ideal outcome. This mental rehearsal can feel incredibly real and emotionally satisfying, but it deepens the divide between the real person and the one living in your head. This storytelling process is so powerful because it's not just about them, it's about you. The narrative you create often reflects your own unmet needs, your hopes, and your insecurities. If you're feeling lonely, the story you write will be about perfect companionship and understanding. If you're feeling unseen in your career, the story might be about a mentor or partner who finally recognizes your brilliance. This person becomes a symbol, a vessel for all the things you feel are missing in your own life. This is why it can feel so devastatingly important. It's not just a crush, it's a solution to a deeper emotional problem. The danger is that you can fall in love with the story. You become addicted to the narrative you've created because it provides comfort, hope, and an escape from the complexities of reality. You're no longer interacting with a human being, you're interacting with a concept. Breaking free from this cycle isn't just about getting over a person, it's about being willing to let go of a story that, while comforting, is ultimately holding you back from finding genuine connection in the real world. You have to become the editor of your own mind and decide which stories are worth keeping. Pattern recognition. Let's zoom out from the microscope for a moment. We've looked at the biology and the psychology of this specific instance, but now we need to turn you into a behavioral detective in your own life. It's time to ask a crucial question. Is this a unique, once-in-a-lifetime event, or is this a pattern? Because for many of us, the person who is taking up all our mental real estate is not an anomaly. They are the latest casting choice for a role that we have been trying to fill for a very long time. This is where self-awareness becomes your greatest tool. I want you to think back. Think about past crushes, past infatuations, past friendships, or professional figures you found yourself fixated on. Get out a journal if you need to. What do these people have in common? Is there a recurring theme? Often we find we are drawn to a specific type, and that type is less about their physical appearance and more about their emotional availability or the dynamic they create with us. One of the most common patterns is a fixation on the emotionally unavailable. This is the person who is hot and cold, who gives just enough attention to keep you hooked, but never enough to provide real security. This dynamic is powerfully addictive because it puts your dopamine system on a variable reward schedule, which is the same principle that makes slot machines so compelling. You never know when you're going to get a small payout, a text, a like, a brief moment of connection, so you keep pulling the lever. If you look back and see a string of unavailable people, it suggests that you may be subconsciously equating that feeling of anxious uncertainty with excitement or passion. The stability of a secure connection might even feel boring by comparison. Your brain has been trained to chase the intermittent reward, and this new person is simply the next puzzle your mind is trying to solve. Recognizing this pattern is incredibly empowering because it shifts the focus from what's wrong with them to what is it in me that is drawn to this dynamic? Another common pattern is the fixer-upper or the potential project. This is the person you see not for who they are, but for who they could be with your help, your love, your guidance. This fixation is often rooted in our own need to feel needed, to feel valuable and important. By focusing on someone else's perceived problems and potential, we get to play the hero. It gives us a sense of purpose and control. It also conveniently distracts us from working on our own issues and our own potential. If you find that the people who occupy your mind are often those you feel you could save or improve, it's a strong cue that you might be outsourcing your sense of self-worth. Your value isn't determined by your ability to change someone else. This pattern can be exhausting as you pour endless energy into a project that was never yours to begin with. The person in your head becomes a symbol of a job you need to complete to feel good about yourself. Looking for these patterns isn't about judging yourself. It's about collecting data. When you see the pattern, you are no longer a victim of a mysterious, all-consuming feeling. You are an observer who can see the machinery at work. It allows you to step back and say, here it is again. This is that feeling my brain gravitates towards. This time, I can choose a different response. It's the moment you stop being a character in a recurring play and become the director. Mirroring you. We've explored the science, the stories, and the patterns. Now we arrive at the deepest and most transformative layer of this entire experience. This is the part where we turn the camera around completely. What if I told you that this person who is constantly on your mind, this person who feels so magnetic and essential, is not really about them at all? What if instead they are a mirror reflecting back to you the most important, unattended parts of yourself? When we are intensely drawn to someone, especially from a distance, we are often not drawn to the person themselves, but to the qualities they represent. They become a living embodiment of something we admire, something we desire, or something we feel is dormant or missing within our own lives. They are a symbol, and our obsession with them is actually a deep yearning for the quality they symbolize. Think about it carefully. What is it about this person that truly captivates you? Go beyond the surface level attraction. Is it their incredible sense of freedom and adventure? Perhaps they travel, take risks, and live a life that feels unbounded. If so, their presence in your mind might be a powerful signal from your own soul that it is craving more freedom, more adventure, more risk. Your fixation on them is really your own suppressed desire for a different way of living, or maybe it's their confidence. Do they move through the world with an ease and self-assuredness that you envy? Do they speak their mind without apology? In that case, your mind is not necessarily obsessed with them, but with the feeling of confidence they evoke. They are a mirror for the confident self you wish to become. The constant thoughts are a reminder from your subconscious that it's time to cultivate that quality within yourself. This reframing is the key to unlocking the entire puzzle. The person becomes a clue. They are a messenger, delivering a critical piece of information about your own path of growth. Maybe you're drawn to their creativity, their artistic talent, their passion for a craft. That is a direct reflection of a creative impulse within you that is being neglected. Your mind is using them as a focal point to say, hey, what about our creativity? When are we going to paint again? When are we going to write that book? When are we going to pursue our own art? The emotional energy you are pouring into thinking about them is energy that is meant to be channeled into your own projects, your own ambitions, your own life. The feeling isn't a sign that you are meant to be with them, it's a sign that you are meant to be more like them in the ways that matter to you. When you see this, the entire dynamic shifts. The feeling of powerless obsession transforms into a feeling of empowered direction. You no longer need them to give you that feeling because you realize they were just showing you what you need to give to yourself. The goal is not to get the person. The goal is to integrate the quality they mirror into your own being. When you start to do that, you'll find that the mirror is no longer needed. You've become the thing you were admiring. Actionable steps. Understanding why this is happening is illuminating, but knowledge without action is just trivia. The real goal is to reclaim your mental and emotional energy so you can invest it back into your own life. This requires more than just waiting for the feeling to fade. It requires proactive, deliberate steps to rewire your brain's focus. The first and most critical step is what I call data externalization. Your thoughts and feelings feel overwhelming because they are abstract, swirling around inside your head with no structure. You need to get them out. Take out a notebook, not your phone, not a computer, a physical notebook. Every time you find yourself thinking about this person, write down 3 things: the time of day, the trigger, what were you doing or thinking right before, and the specific feeling or story that came up. Was it a hopeful fantasy, a memory, an anxious worry? This act does 2 powerful things. First, it breaks the thought loop. The physical act of writing interrupts the rumination cycle. Second, it turns you into a scientist of your own experience. After a few days, you will have a tangible data set. You'll see your patterns in black and white. Oh, I always think about them when I'm bored at 3 p.m. Or, I always think about them after I see a post from a happy couple. This data is pure gold. It shows you exactly where you need to intervene. The second step is pattern interruption and replacement. Now that you have your data, you can see your triggers. Your job is to consciously create a new response to those triggers. For example, if you realize you always think of them during your morning commute while listening to a certain playlist, you must change the playlist. Create a new one with upbeat, empowering music that has zero connection to them. You are literally building a new neural pathway. If you think of them every time you feel lonely at night, you need to have a replacement activity ready, a fascinating podcast, a book you can't put down, a guided meditation, or calling a friend. The key is to have the replacement ready before the trigger hits. Don't wait for the feeling to start and then try to fight it. You need to be prepared. This isn't about suppressing the thought. It's about redirecting the brain's energy. You're telling your brain, I see you're looking for something to do, let's do this instead. Over time, the new pathway becomes stronger and the old one begins to weaken. The third and most crucial long-term step is dopamine replacement. As we discussed, your brain is addicted to the dopamine of seeking and anticipating a resolution with this person. You can't just take that away. You have to give it a new, healthier target. You need to find a new chase. This has to be something that is challenging, engaging, and fully in your control. It could be a fitness goal, like training for a 5K. It could be a creative project, like learning to play the guitar or starting a blog. It could be a professional goal, like mastering a new skill for your career. The goal must be for you. It has to be something that creates a sense of progress and anticipation. When you are focused on beating your personal best running time or finally nailing a difficult chord, your brain gets its dopamine hit from a source that builds your self-esteem and your life, not from a source that drains your energy. This is how you truly move on. You don't just stop thinking about them. You start building a life that is so interesting, so engaging, and so fulfilling that there is simply less and less space for them in it. You crowd them out with your own growth. The truth, we've journeyed through the chemistry of your brain, the stories in your mind, the patterns in your life, and the reflection in the mirror. We've laid out the steps to begin reclaiming your focus. But it all comes down to one moment of radical, sometimes painful honesty. This is the question I promised you, the one that separates fantasy from reality and finally sets you free. You have to sit quietly with yourself, take a deep breath, and ask this with the intention of hearing the real answer. Am I captivated by the person with all their flaws, their complexities, and their real-life messiness that I may not even know? Or am I addicted to the story I've created and the feeling that story gives me? Am I in love with them, or am I in love with the hope, the escape, the distraction, or the validation they represent in my mind? This question is so powerful because it forces you to dissect the experience. The real person is a complete, three-dimensional human being. They have bad moods, they have insecurities, they have a life that has absolutely nothing to do with you. The character in your head, however, is a two-dimensional projection, perfectly designed to meet your needs. The feeling they give you, that rush of hope, that comforting fantasy, is a potent emotional drug. It's very possible to be addicted to that feeling without having any true connection to the person who happens to be its catalyst. Answering this question honestly can be a moment of disenchantment, and that's okay. Letting go of a beautiful story is a form of grief. But it is also a moment of profound liberation. It's the moment you realize that the power was never with them. It was always with you. You created the story, you generated the feeling, and therefore, you have the power to write a new one. This entire experience, as painful and consuming as it feels, is not a mistake. It is a messenger. It's your own mind and heart trying to tell you something important about what you need, what you're missing, and where you need to grow. The person was just the catalyst, the spark that lit the fire. Your work now is not to chase the spark, but to tend to the fire within you, to give yourself the adventure, the confidence, the validation, and the love that you were hoping they would provide. When you do that, you reclaim your mental space, not with emptiness, but with a vibrant and fulfilling sense of your own self. You stop waiting for a character in a story and become the hero of your own reality. This was a tough one to film because it's so personal. Be honest, which chapter felt like it was reading your mind?